to be gay.
Welcome to Queer Kid Stuff.
But Lindsay, I still don't know if I'm a boy or a girl.
Well, Teddy, did you know that some people aren't boys or girls?
This video was shown last year in a school in Ottawa, Canada, traumatizing a 6-year-old girl. Her mother said suddenly she was told to believe that at any moment, what she believes to be real, that she is a girl, may not be true. The parents have filed a complaint against the school and have pulled their child out of it.
It's not fair to not look at this as emotional and spiritual abuse on a child, to believe in a false ideology that there is a third sex, that there is a transgender.
Denise Schick is the daughter of a transgender man who became a woman.
As Christians, if we start to second guess and think, you know, in Genesis, was it right or wrong? Well, wait a minute, maybe there is a transgender person or sex that's in there, then we're really not believing the scriptures.
The Creator made 2 sexes. It's indisputable, male and female. And no amount of surgery or changing of clothes or having extensions added to one's hair. But at the end of the day, if you swab his mouth, if you check his birth certificate, if you check his DNA, he's still a man.
Critics note that if the Equality Act were to become the law of the land, it would mandate that the complete LGBTQ agenda have the full force of law, whatever the fallout.
Treating gender identity as a protected category under our civil rights laws could have negative consequences in a number of areas. The pressure culturally right now is towards affirming a person's transgender identity as rapidly as possible, and treating other issues first seems to just delay the achievement of that process. This is very unfortunate, I believe.
Take a recent example. A Minnesota mother learned that her minor son received hormone therapy without her knowledge as the first step toward a sex change operation. The mother is suing the authorities that shepherded her son through this process without her consent or even knowledge. Unfortunately, this is not an isolated case.
When we look at just the fact of physically what these drugs are doing to their bodies, I mean, to sterilize them when a child's brain hasn't, our brains don't fully develop till they're 22, 24 years old. But yet because Jack wants to become Jill or Jill wants to become Jack, we go along with it.
Walt Heyer, a former transgender who runs the organization SexChangeRegret.com, notes that over 40% of those who've had the operation have attempted suicide, but the Equality Act would make it virtually impossible to stop this radical agenda, all in the name of fighting discrimination.
We're really not talking about discrimination against a particular group of people because of who they are. We're talking about a fundamental difference in philosophy about what defines who is male and who is female.
One area where we see this philosophical clash in action is in women's athletics. Scholarships set aside for women through Title IX are now being taken by men competing as women.
It's really putting women back into the dark ages because all of a sudden we're losing our rights. What fairness is that to the girls that had worked all year to gain their athletic strength that they needed to go up against a boy?
Biological women will hardly be able to compete for championships against against men who identify as women. And as we saw recently, Martina Navratilova, the great tennis champion, great female tennis champion, spoke out against transgender competition, and she was roundly vilified by many on the left for what she said, but she's a lesbian activist herself. She's been an out lesbian since 1981.
What we need to understand and know about the Equality Act is it's just another tool that they're actually trying to use to try and implement SOGI laws, which are sexual orientation and gender identity laws, to protect them as if they are, actually I think they're trying to implement them in the Civil Rights Act. Men and women are made differently. We shouldn't apologize for those differences, nor should we try and erase those differences.